Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to Hotline 21 on CAN TV. You are watching a live call-in show, so feel free to call us up with any questions or comments. The number is 312-738-1060. My name is Alice Merrifield, and joining me this evening is Florence Stevens. We represent Beacon Therapeutic Diagnostic and Treatment Center. Beacon was founded in 1968 and has been empowering children and families by providing educational, mental health, and social services. I'm delighted to have Florence as my guest on this show tonight to discuss Beacon's Early Head Start program. Early Head Start is a home-based program, so the services are delivered in the homes and supports children ages 0 to 3 and their families. Before we hear from Florence and all about the great work being done in Beacon's Early Head Start program, I'm going to post contact information about the organization. First, here's our motto, Empowering Lives and Changing Futures, and you can find us on YouTube and on Facebook. Our email address is www.beacon-therapeutic.org. And here's our locations. We have our business office on 103rd Street in the Beverly neighborhood. We have our Longwood campus, which is our elementary school, our outpatient programs, and our little intensive outpatient programs. That's on 106th and Longwood in the Beverly area also. We have our junior high school at Calumet Park campus. And then we also have our homeless outreach services at our Western office. And all the homeless outreach services are delivered out across the city in homeless shelters and in people's houses. So here's a listing of our programs. As I said, we have a little and big intensive outpatient programs. Little IOP runs from 3 to 6 years old, and big IOP runs from 6 to 18 years old. We have our outpatient clinic for children and adolescents, our FACT program, which is Family Assertive Community Treatment, which serves young mothers ages 18 to 25 with at least one child under the age of 5. Who have a mental health disorder, and the child or at least one of the children is experiencing some developmental issues. We have our Early Head Start program, which we'll be talking about tonight. We have our shelter outreach services, our CHIPRA program, which is Children's Health Insurance Plans. It helps sign kids up for all kids. And then we have our therapeutic day schools, our elementary and our high school. So anyway, so welcome again, Florence. We're happy to have you here tonight. Let's just sort of talk a little bit about Early Head Start and kind of go from there. Can you just kind of describe the Early Head Start program?
Sure. Well, first, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today and talk a little bit about our new program. Early Head Start is the newest program at Beacon Therapeutic, and we started in September of 2010, so we're actually getting ready to wrap up our first program year. And it's not exactly what you would typically think of when you think of a Head Start program. We don't have a center where children are dropped off every day by their parents and left in a preschool or daycare setting. We're what you would call a home-based program model, which means that we send home visitors into either one of the homeless shelters. There may be a doubled-up living situation or individual participants' homes. And the home visitors provide lesson plans, developmentally appropriate activities for the parents and the child to do together.
Can you kind of describe some of those activities that the home visitors do with the families, and what is the focus of the activities, and you know, what does a typical home visit look like?
Sure. Well, I'll do my best. They can be varied just because the ages from 0 to 3 have such different developmental levels. But it could include something for a 6-month-old that incorporates tummy time, learning to crawl or support themselves. It can be for an older child, incorporating different shapes or colors, and in terms of like fruits and vegetables. It could be a whole host of different things. But the role of the home visitor, when he goes into the home to provide these lessons, is more so as a support for the family and the child, as the family unit. So it's not as in she's teaching the parent how to teach her child, but to support their interaction with one another.
Okay. How many slots does Early Head Start have?
Well, we started the program year in September with 20 slots, and actually this month, due to overwhelming demand and a long waiting list, we added 10 more slots, so we are up to 30.
That's great. And about how many families is that? Because the slots are also, some of them are siblings, so each child takes a slot from one family. And then pregnant moms also are counted as a slot. So about how many families would you say are part of the program?
Well, of the 30, we probably have about 15 to 17 families. It fluctuates, but that's usually about a stable number.
Okay, great. Can you sort of talk about the socialization part of Early Head Start? And I'm going to put up another overhead that sort of has some information about the socializations.
Sure. Well, we actually call them Family Day at Beacon. But a socialization is an opportunity for the parents and the child to come and interact, one, with other children and with other parents. Typically, we have single stay-at-home parents, stay-at-home moms, who can be kind of isolated at their homes, and they don't get a lot of interaction with other parents. So this is an opportunity for them to come and share some of their struggles and successes with their own children. And then the children at the same time don't get to interact much with other children. And so this is an opportunity for them to come and interact with children their own age. But the other purpose of the socialization is for children to have new learning experiences. The 0 to 3, again, is such a critical time for learning, for brain development and new pathways, and really the basis of how our learning experience goes for the rest of our lives. So a socialization is basically set up to provide these new experiences that parents can not only do at our facility, but at home.
That's great. And where do you have the whole socializations for Early Head Start?
We host them at Beacon's organization, and it's actually in one of our other locations. I don't know if we have a picture of the space or not, but it's off of 103rd Street.
Great. Okay. We have a caller. Go ahead, caller.
Hi. For this Head Start program that you have, if we were a corporation who was interested in donating some resources to a program, one that is has such impact as yours does, how would we go about doing that?
Oh, for corporations or for just anybody, we always accept in-kind donations. That can be anything from, since we're working primarily in this program with homeless families, it can be anything from sheets and linens and mattresses and furniture for when the family gets housed, to cleaning supplies and clothes for the children and baby items and toys. And so any of those items are wonderful. Early Head Start is also required through the federal regulations that we have to raise so much and match so much money to support the program. So for every federal dollar that comes to us through the city of Chicago, we have to match a certain amount through private donations, and that's just required. So Florence, talk a little bit about the program governance. I mean, we just talked a little bit and touched briefly on how the program is funded. But Early Head Start does have a lot of federal regulations, as do Head Start programs. Can you talk a little bit about what some of those regulations look like in terms of the leadership of the program and how the program is expected to operate?
Sure. That's kind of a long-winded question, so feel free to stop me for questions. But there's actually several governing bodies that are built into the federal regulations. And a cornerstone of really Beacon Therapeutic, but also Head Start programs, is empowering families. So these governing bodies are set up in order to help families empower themselves and advocate for their child's future. So what we start with is the parent committee, and this is made up...
I'm going to put up an overhead about the governance, too.
That would be great.
If people can read the type.
Okay. The parent committee is made up of all the parents who have children enrolled in the program. They typically meet once a month, and they generally meet about how the services are going for them and directions they'd like the program to be, and things that are working for them and things that aren't. So this committee really ensures that the program is kind of their own, versus it's what they like versus what I want the program to be. And then we have the policy committee, which is made up of community members who are not employees of Beacon but outside of the community, and then a few members of the parent committee. This committee has a little bit more power of the program in terms of they review reports and kind of brainstorm on different objectives if we're meeting federal standards, why we're not meeting some, and developing a plan of how we can. And then, of course, we have the board of directors who review all of our program reports as well and our financial reports and help us develop goals towards the future of where we want to take the program and making sure we're reaching all of the federal standards.
And part of Early Head Start also is that it requires quite a bit of involvement from the board of directors and the board members of the agency that has the program, so that there's not only participant representation to the board, but the board is actively expected to review the policies and procedures for the program and the program plans, and be heavily involved in both the planning and in the fundraising for the program.
And the parents as well. They're expected to be involved in the planning process. And each program year, we revamp our program plans and management plans. And those are all overviewed with the parents, and they're expected to provide input and some direction about where we should be going. And I don't know how many programs really offer the opportunity for parents to meet board members and express desires or wants for services from the agency. But our Early Head Start program does that.
And I think the other thing to emphasize, and one of the things that we sort of think about, is Early Head Start and Head Start programs were initially designed as sort of for at-risk children, but with Beacon's Early Head Start program, we're working with a population that has been homeless or is currently homeless, and also where the adult in the family has a diagnosable mental health condition, which means that the families are generally facing more challenges than your typical Early Head Start and Head Start population. Yet we still need to be able to help our families and parents get to the point where they can participate in program planning and represent the program to the board. Can you talk just even a little bit about how you envision moving some of the parents along that path and giving them the skills so that they could go to a board meeting? And before that, we do have a caller. So let me just get this question and then we'll go back to that.
Sure.
Okay. Caller?
Yes, hi. I was wondering, how long has your program been in existence, and are you accredited?
The Early Head Start program has been in existence since September of last year. So it's about just about a year almost we're coming up on. And it just got extended for another 6 months. So we'll be going. And I'm sorry, what was the rest of your question?
If they're accredited.
Oh, if they're accredited. Thank you. The agency as a whole is accredited by the Joint Commission, by ISB, by a number of organizations. We're Medicaid approved, Department of Human Services. So, I mean, there's a number of accreditations. Recently, the agency, the Early Head Start program, just went through a federal review that reviewed part of the aspects of the program. And so that, it has just been sort of reviewed and looked at and made sure that we're meeting the compliance standards for the program.
Right.
So anyway, so can you talk back to just talking a little bit about how our parents, how we're working with them to help them get the skills to sort of be able to go to board meetings and do things that help them meet the expectations for the regulations for the program.
Well, and as you mentioned earlier, our participants usually have a diagnosable mental health illness and are homeless. So sometimes it can be a little challenging, and we usually have to start at the beginning in terms of skill building and how to get to advocate for yourself, but how to do it properly. So things that we've been incorporating in part of the parent committees and even home visits is how to, voice what you want and in a way that you're going to get it out in the community. So it has been kind of a challenge and a struggle, but we just take it baby steps, and eventually our moms are very receptive to it, and they end up doing very well with it. And I think that when we have our next board meeting where a parent member needs to be present, we'll actually be very productive.
That's great. That's great. How do people get referred? And I'm going to put up some pictures while we're doing this, but how do people get referred to the Early Head Start program? And can you talk a little bit about whether there's a waiting list or...
Sure. Typically, we get our referrals from Beacon's services, and especially our shelter outreach service and FACT team, but we do take referrals from outside agencies, including one of the 32 homeless shelters we serve. If you're wanting to refer a participant, you can call me. Again, my name is Florence Stevens, and the number at Longwood, we'll put it up again later, but it is 773-881-1005. And I'm the Early Head Start Supervisor. We do have a waiting list, and actually we've had a waiting list since we started the program, but we're working our way down on it, and hopefully in September we'll be ready for new enrollees.
That would be great.
Okay.
That would be great. So can we talk just a little bit more about the home visitors and the qualifications of the home visitors, and how is the program staffed?
Sure. Well, the program is very small. Again, we have a home visitor will have typically about 10 participants in their caseload. So we have 3 home visitors, myself as the supervisor, we have a program director, and an infant mental health specialist. Typically, federal standards want a home visitor to have at least an associate's degree. All of ours have at least a bachelor's, if not a master's degree. Just because of the population that we're dealing with, we need higher sensitivity to psychological issues or social work. So we kind of look out beyond the federal standards for the employees that we have. But the team as a whole works really well together because we all have an area of expertise that we get to bring to the table, to our discussions and as a team, how we approach each participant. I have my public health and nutrition background. We have an LCSW on staff. We have a Type 4 certification, a special ed teacher and infant mental health specialist on the staff. And then again, we also have the home visitors who have their own area of expertise.
Okay. What is the role of the infant mental health specialist? What is infant mental health, and how does?
Right.
Can you explain that for our viewers?
Well, a lot of people don't think that babies would have mental health issues, and most of it does deal with the attachment and relationship building between a mom and child, which can be difficult in a chaotic situation in the homeless shelter, or if there's mental illness in the family and struggling with that. So our infant mental health consultant actually goes to individual cases and may observe the family unit and see if there's issues that she can or he can provide counseling with. She provides staff development for us, just to bring us up to awareness on different infant mental health issues. And then she also provides staff training, to our parents as well on different issues.
Okay. Can you describe what some of those trainings that she's done are about?
A lot of it is basic infant, the introduction to infant mental health, or the importance of attachment, building relationships. And a lot of it focuses on the child and their family community, and then the outside community, and how we can work within each dynamic and understand that the different cultures of each family and how to work with them.
Okay. Can you describe some of the challenges in more detail that our families face? I mean, we've talked about the fact that they're homeless and that they often struggle with mental health issues, but without really revealing confidential information, can you sort of describe maybe like what a typical family that we're working with looks like for our viewers?
Well, I'll have to say there's not really any typical case. They all are different. But a lot of times we start in the home building basic parenting skills. The importance of holding your child a certain amount versus leaving them in the playpen, or the importance of family-centered meals. Those are basic skills that sometimes our parents don't have, just from the fact of their own upbringing or their living situation. It may not always be possible to do all the things that within your own home you would be able to do. So a lot of the things that we start doing before we can even do activities with the family is start building basic parenting skills to help them strengthen as a parent and work within the situation that they have. A lot of homeless shelters, a lot of participants who are in homeless shelters may not have space available to do all these activities and may struggle with day-to-day routines just because of the chaotic lifestyles that unfortunately they are trying to face.
And I think for some of our families too, even things such as just housekeeping skills and organization and scheduling skills have been something that the home visitors have really had to focus on, just to make sure that the environment stays clean and safe for the babies before they can even sometimes get to the bonding and the attachment
Yeah, and that's something I'm glad you brought up, because it's important to realize that if you've been raised in homeless shelters and then you have a place of your own, you take advantage of a lot of things that you've learned growing up that you wouldn't have if you grew up in a homeless shelter. So we have a lot of participants in their first home with their children who are expecting, they don't understand that we have to clean and cook and all of the basic safety needs. So that is really something that we start with when we walk in the door. We usually have a calendar for each family, and we work out a whiteboard and a routine, and that's something that is a big staple in the program is stability and consistency. This is your appointment every week, we're going to be here, we're going to call you. And I think that helps build a lot of skills with our families.
Okay. And since this is kind of a new program and only been in existence since last September, how would you say, and those families that are in the program have been in other Beacon programs, either through the Shelter Outreach or our FACT program, can you just talk a little bit about how you feel like they've responded to the early Head Start services, because they are kind of different from what our other programs are doing, and those other programs are still working with them. What do you think that they benefit from early Head Start that's different from what they get from FACT or what they get from our Shelter Outreach program?
Well, when we started the program in September, we expected, we had a long waiting list, but we thought we would run through it because we experience in our other programs a high rate of turnover. We haven't actually experienced that so much with the Early Head Start program. We still have a lot of our families who have been with us since the beginning and love the program. And we've had a lot of positive feedback from the parents regarding the program, and I think it's just because it's a positive experience for them. It's a time for them that they have to set aside each week to focus on their children and their families and have positive interactions, which I think makes them feel good. And so they look forward to us coming, and we build relationships with each family, and I think that they're very receptive to it, and they seem to really enjoy it.
Well, I think, everybody wants to be a good parent.
Right.
And part of Early Head Start is really supporting them in their effort to try to be a good parent and to learn what they need to learn to be.
Right. And we're not going into the home saying, you're doing all these things wrong. We're building their strengths and at the same time working on their weaknesses.
Great. Anything else you want to add about Early Head Start and the services?
I do want to just reiterate that I don't know if we completely answered the first question. If you do want to make donations to the Early Head Start program or Beacon Therapeutic, if you have our contact information, we could put it back up there.
Put our contact
Again, I'm the Early Head Start supervisor, so you can call me at 773-881-1005. Or the business office at Beacon Therapeutic is 773-298-1243 for any of our other programs.
Okay. And then I just also, there's the contact information up there. The business office would be probably the place you would call if you're interested in donating anything. I thought maybe we could just take a couple minutes and just touch on some of the other things that you do for Beacon, because certainly Early Head Start is not the only program that you're involved in and sort of running. So
sure. Well, my other role within the agency is actually the health educator. So I work with the other programs, mainly the Little Intensive Outpatient program serving the 3 to 6 year old, the Shelter Outreach Services, and the FACT team. And of course, I provide health education service to our Early Head Start families as well. Part of my role, and these pictures here are the vegetable garden we started last summer with the children.
The children really enjoyed.
They did. They hounded me actually all spring about planting again, so we have it started, but it's not nearly as big yet. But so I get to provide individual health education services to either those in the homeless shelter or recently housed, or I can work helping them find a medical home or a doctor and making sure that they go to medical appointments and helping them kind of overcome any obstacles they may have.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'd like to put up some information. This is our Beacon Bash that we have every spring or summer. No, summer these days. It's Thursday, July 21st from 6 till 9 o'clock at Joe's Sports Bar on Weed Street in Chicago. If you're interested in joining us for the evening for some live band and music, and you can contact Peggy Rourke at 773-298-6441. And I'd like to remind you to tune in every Tuesday at 4:30. Next week is actually our last show to learn more about how Beacon is making a positive impact in the community. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thank you, Florence. And we wish everybody a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.